Hello and welcome to another video by me. This time we're going to be looking at the new Boss OC-5. So, the OC-5 from Boss. I'm not a Boss connoisseur. I've only had about 4 pedals in my sort of guitar lifetime. The Boss RV500 though has stayed on my pedal board throughout, the big reverb unit. And I now control that with MIDI through my switcher as well. So that's brilliant. That's an absolute brilliant unit. And when I saw this, I had to have it. I'd been toying with the idea for a while of getting an octave pedal and sort of looked at the Pogs and the Micro Pogs and the Pog 2 by Electro Harmonics and the Sub and Ups by TC Electronics with their tone print functionality. But it's sort of always held off, and then this came up and I simply had to have it. It is kind of 2 octave pedals in one. I mean, I know things like the TC Sub and Up can be X amount of pedals in one because of the, again, the tone print functionality. You can upload infinite kind of tone prints to it. But this is old school OC2, Boss OC2, so like a monophonic OC2 and then a polyphonic octave as well. So in the vintage setting, you have your 4 controls and they're all active. You have your direct level all the way around. Anti-clockwise or to the left is just the octave signal. So if you have your control all the way around there, it's pretty much just chucking out the octaves. And the further you go around, the more guitar signal and a bit louder it gets as well. So having it about midday is a good mix of the signals. Then you have 1 octave up, 1 octave down, and 2 octaves down. The vintage setting is, again, your classic OC2, your classic monophonic octave, where it struggles at times. It doesn't track all that well. It's a little bit croaky. It's a little bit throaty. it's glitchy. It doesn't like chords at all, especially the more intricate chord. If there's open strings and fretted strings, it just, you hear it literally wanting to walk out of the room. Doesn't like it. Just like trying to compute what should happen. Whereas when you whack it across to a polyphonic mode, handle chords way better. But the control layout changes only ever so slightly. This far pedal here with the highlighted options matches the highlighted poly setting. So in poly setting, you've still got your direct level where you can have it only octave or guitar signal. You've still got your upper octave, you've still got your one sub octave, and then the -2 octave becomes a range control. All the way around there to the left, as you look at the pedal, it's titled as lowest, and again highlighted like a poly box. So it's fairly sort of self-explanatory. And in that setting, the octaves only affect the lowest note you're hitting. I'll highlight and demonstrate this shortly. So if you're hitting, say for example, an A bar chord on the 5th fret, it will only chuck the octaves onto that one A root note with 5th fret of the, say, the standard tuned E string, and it will only do that. If you're walking up the notes and doing a scale, it will affect every note because it's each individual string. But when you then hit a chord, it will just affect that lowest note you're hitting in that chord. It's fucking genius. I don't understand how the hell they do it. Then if you go all the way across to the right, again, the right as I'm looking at the pedal, it does a similar thing in that when you're doing like scales or, you know, single note things, it will affect every string you hit. But also, round to that part of the range control, when you hit a chord, the octaves will affect every note you're hitting, or at least will try to hit every note you're hitting. And then the further you take it round that way, you slowly creep round and you slowly start taking the octave away from your higher treble frequencies. So around there somewhere is where you start losing control of, say, the E and the B string and some of the G string notes and stuff like that. They'll just be your normal dry guitar signal with whatever other effects you've got, of course. And obviously the further and further you get round, you then start having only like the E and the E and the A string coming through, you know, just talking in standard tuning terms. And yeah, until you get right round onto the brink of that lowest, and again, you're literally just getting your E string hitting through. But it's genius how the fuck it works. It's I think it's magic and science in one pedal. Anyway, today, I say proudly and sitting upright and a little bit scared because God knows how it's going to turn out. Today is the first ever demo I'm recording without microphones. Basically going to be recording via the captor into 2 notes, wall of sound. So I'll be going into the front end of the Orange Brent Hinds Terror, out of that into the captor, and out of the captor into my interface, into my DAW, my digital audio workstation, or whatever they call it. And then using wall of sound for cab presets and different room emulations. That in itself is fairly scary for me because I've forever been kind of an amp and speaker guy. I've not really dabbled with this world much at all. So yeah, going to be doing that. And I will be using the project guitar, the SMP Guitars Guitar School for Kids That Don't Guitar Too Well project guitar that I made in lockdown version 1.0 back in whenever it was, March. And we still rattle on through this COVID fucking nightmare. But yeah, off to tones. Right, as you can see, the pedal is mounted on the board and all the controls are set to noon. Just going to be using a little bit of clean boost from the Dane. Middle pickup position, so a little bit humbucker, a little bit of single coil, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Using the vintage setting to start with, the monophonic, just to show how it sort of doesn't like chords and stuff really. We'll tweak a couple of the knobs, but we'll go everything at noon to start with. So you can hear clean notes. It does that really quirky kind of early octavey kind of stuff, like the OC-2 kind of stuff, where it tracks okay single notes. It's just when it does chords, it cannot handle open strings and fretted strings at the same time. Just the complexity of it just makes it, you can literally hear it just going, oh, I don't like it. Right, so let's see what each does. Upper octave. The direct, obviously, if you go all the way over there, it's pretty much just the octave signal. So that's that basically. The poly is where it gets more intriguing. The poly just handles chords way better, and then you get to use this crazy range control as well. We'll whack that up there to start with, so it covers all the strings to start with. Again, we shall show clean. So same again, take that down, whack that up. Messing around with the Range. So basically the Range is a shopping outlet in the UK that does sort of discount produce, but also basically does exactly that. It affects the range of strings that are hit. So if we go all the way down here, this is really clever in that it will literally only affect the lowest note you hit. So when you do that, it's affecting all the notes because each note is hit individually. But if you hit a chord, it will only hit the bass note. So yeah, you can see where that can get interesting. But then if you go all the way over here, that's when it affects all the strings. And if you go back, so for example, you can hear it cutting out, you can hear it. So you can hear it hitting the lower notes, but not the higher notes. So it's a really cool feature of, yeah, just being able to do that. But that's a great mode where it just does the heavier note. Also, you've only got the 2 stages of octave on here. So go around there somewhere. We'll now add a little bit of drive. We'll start off with a 4p. See, that's a perfect example where you can hear it hitting that low note, but not the higher notes. And then we can go like even filthier, and this is kind of where I believe the octave almost belongs. It's just where it gets like super dirty. We'll add a bit of delay, and then we'll also go back to the vintage just to show how that handles this sort of filth. And we'll go both sides of the ruby red. See, to me, this is where the vintage one really kicks in, because I just love that sort of croakiness, that kind of like the roar of the old school OCT. OCT? OC2 octave. We'll jump across, we'll try the Bad Penny Widow, which is their kind of drive fuzz. I've not got a clue what I'm playing. I know it's something Rival Sons-esque. I was talking to Mr. Dan at 15 Seconds Geared Demo about it the other day. So you can hear on there where the range kicked in, and it sort of cut out the octave halfway down that scale. So if we whack it there, it should cover all the notes. And just for shits and giggles, we'll quickly cover the amp overdrive as well. So without. that's it. What did you think? Did you have a favourite setting? Did you have a favourite sound, etc, etc? I tried to cover a few bases with it, tried to cover gain, stages, etc. Bit of delay, bit of reverb, etc. But yeah, let me know down below what you think. I like it. Like I say, I find it's fun for me. It's almost like a play thing, but I can see how, you know, in the right context, it could be a real tool, a real sort of like a useful implement to actually get things out of. But yeah, like I say, let me know down below in the comments what you think. Thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, etc, etc. As I always say, I don't see a point in the thumbs down, and I certainly don't see a point in negative trolley shitty type comments. It's just a waste of your time and mine, because I then have to delete it, and it's just awkward, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, cheers for watching.